All right, if you are a Goodwill bin shopper, especially the one in Oakland in the Bay Area, the game has changed. It may have changed forever. This may be something that might be spreading to all the other Goodwills eventually because of COVID. Stay tuned, guys. I'm going to tell you all about what's happening and what's going down here in a second. All right, guys. Andre Reese. .biz. All right, guys. Not only do I do taxes, I do a whole bunch of other stuff. I do bookkeeping, accounting. I do retail as well. Check out my website, andrereese.biz, and go ahead and reach out to me and if I can help and assist you if you want to book a consult as well. All right, guys. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. As you guys know, not only do I own a tax and accounting bookkeeping practice, I also am an online retail seller. I've done everything you can possibly do when it comes to selling on Amazon except private label. I've done wholesale, I've done retail arbitrage, I've done books, I've done all that good stuff. I've also sold at events, Comic Cons, outdoor festivals, etc. So I have a lot of experience, at least almost 6 years now of selling online and doing face-to-face, sales. And when it comes to pop-ups, one of the places I've enjoyed going now, and I'll be honest with you guys, when it comes to retail sales, one of the things that sucks about being a retailer is product cost. One of the worst things that you have to deal with is product cost, because you can go and buy a piece of product and it's a hot seller, then all of a sudden it turns into a dud and you're stuck with the inventory and you have the money that's stuck in it. You can't get it out of it. And you still need to continue to buy additional retail items in order to keep your sales going. So if you run out of retail product, you can't make any sales, you can't make any money. So it's a vicious cycle. So one of the best ways to be able to make money when it comes to retail is pay next to nothing for your inventory. And how do you do that? You can go to your mom's house, you can source. You can go around your house, you can source and find stuff. You can go dig through the dumpsters, you can get, merchandise, etc. You can also go to the thrift stores, you can go to garage sales, etc. You can buy stuff, as close to nothing as possible. And the cheaper you pay for stuff, you don't have the carrying cost of the inventory itself as it sits on the shelf and waits to be sold. And most importantly, when it's all said and done, the least amount of money you have out of your pocket, when it comes time to actually sell the merchandise, you have more money that can go back into your pocket, as money that you can live on versus having to go and pay for inventory that's, been sitting on the shelf that you're waiting to sell. So one of the things I've learned over the years is one of the best places to go to get inventory really cheap is to go directly to the Goodwill bins. So the Goodwill bins, if you guys aren't familiar with that, if you go to a typical Goodwill store, you're going to find there's going to be shelves everywhere. Everything's going to be sorted through. Clothes are going to be hung up. You're going to find, housewares, etc. that are going to be on nice shelves, throughout the location. The condition that they might vary depending upon the location you're at, what type of donations that they get. But it's you can walk into the Goodwill and you can take a look around. You can see what they have, and you can decide if you want to look at one section or another. When you guys go to the Goodwill bins, it's almost like buying a raw key of cocaine. That's probably the best way I can describe it. The best way I can describe it. It's you walk into the store, and everything is just as it's been received from the donation center. It's basically dumped into these large blue bins, and it's unsorted. So if you have to actually physically go and sort and dig and try to find stuff. And I'll tell you, before COVID happened, people that went to the Goodwill bins wore masks. People that went to the Goodwill bins wore gloves, and then they had used hand sanitizer because the place can be nasty, it can be filthy. And like I said, the stuff is uncut. And you have to be very, very careful as you're digging through those bins, looking for whatever it is that you're looking for, because you can get cut, you can get stuck, you can get poked. There's all types of hazards that you can encounter when you go to the Goodwill bins. But what's the benefit of doing all that is that they roll stuff out constantly and they sell it by the pound. So you can go and buy, and if you shop at Goodwill or thrift stores, you guys know it's not cheap to buy clothes there. I mean, you can go and buy a shirt at Goodwill for $9, $10, $11, $12, but you can go to the Goodwill Clearance Center or the Goodwill Bins or the Goodwill Outlet, and they're going to be selling everything for $1.49 a pound roughly. So you can end up probably getting 10, 15 shirts and maybe spend, that might be 3 or 4 pounds worth of clothing. And it's going to be way cheaper than it's going to be if you're going to go to a traditional store where everything's been sorted through and hung up. So if you're trying to sell online, an incredible place to go to get inventory for almost nothing is the Goodwill Bins. So I've gone there before, and and one of the things you can get there is media. I've gone and bought books that I paid 25 cents for. So they're books, they're cassettes, they're albums, any of the media that they sell is 25 cents each. I've bought books before that I've sold on Amazon for multiple hundreds of dollars all the time. They're there. And probably the biggest book that I've sold recently, I sold one on eBay. I bought it for 25 cents and sold that book for $1,000 on eBay. So those opportunities exist there. You can get stuff next to nothing at the bins. So because of COVID, I stopped going to the bins. It's been really probably about 6 months or so. And what they did at the Oakland location is they kind of tried to move to like a more social distancing model where they have, maybe 30 or 40 bins in there. They let 30 or 40 people come into the store at a time. Each person gets to stand in front of a bin. They can dig through it, and then they blow a whistle, so to speak, and then you have to rotate to the next bin after about a minute or so. And so you get to, so if they have 40 bins, you can spend 40 minutes in the store, and each person rotates up and down to each individual bin. And if you're a bookseller like I am, I would go in there normally and spend a few hours just going through the books, scanning. You can't get very much in the way of books in about a minute, and so after a while they really started focusing on just trying to sell clothing. And I went there a few times, during the super lockdown, and they just really stopped selling books, so I basically just kind of backed away from it. Now that everything is opening up here in the Bay Area in California, I happened to go there on June 1st to check out, actually June 2nd, which was a Tuesday, to check out the Goodwill Bins. I figured my books that I have at Amazon are getting low. I haven't replenished anything at all this year. So I figured at this point they're going to go ahead and go back to a model before where you can go in there and spend as much time as you want to at each individual bin, just kind of digging through, doing whatever you got to do. So what they've done, they've changed the game, and so they've now converted over to what they call a wholesale model, and so the actual Goodwill outlet itself is closed down. So you can't go into it anymore. They've had glass all the way around it. They've had doors in the front. As you can see from some of the pictures I'll put here at the end, they've actually put up those steel, metal sheet rods, and they're almost like if there was going to be a civil disturbance. They've gone ahead and put plywood up, and they're probably going to put some type of facade on the top of that plywood. So they have eliminated access to the outlet. You can only get to the outlet through the rear of the location, through the main gate in the back, as if they're going to receive a delivery, that type of thing. So what they're doing now is they call it wholesale, and so you only can buy items in a Gaylord. So what's a Gaylord? If you guys don't know what a Gaylord is, if you ever go to a store, and a good example is fruit, like watermelon or pumpkins are some very, very large fruit. If you ever go to a store, you'll see watermelons, or you'll see pumpkins inside of a very, very large, cardboard box. Underneath it is a pallet. That's a Gaylord. And so what they're doing now is they're only selling merchandise in the form of a Gaylord. So if you want to buy books, you have to buy a whole Gaylord of books. You can't sort through them. You got to buy the whole thing sight unseen. If you want to buy clothing, you can do that also as well. You got to buy the clothing sight unseen. You got to buy it by the Gaylord. And then if you want to buy household items, you got to do the same thing as well. You got to buy them by the Gaylord. And so how does this all work? You're just an individual that pulls up in a Honda Prelude or a Toyota Prius, small car, and how are you supposed to get a Gaylord on top of your car and get that stuff home? So what they basically are allowing you to do is, when you decide to, so I'll explain what I did. When I went there, like I said, I focus on books. They sell a Gaylord of books for $60. And so you have to purchase the Gaylord itself, sight unseen. You can't look inside. You can't determine, hey, I want this Gaylord or that one. You buy it, you pay $60 to them up front, and then they will bring the Gaylord to you. And then they charge you a $20 disposal fee. So what they'll do is they'll have right next to you an empty Gaylord. And so in that empty Gaylord, you can sort through the Gaylord that has stuff in it. And then the stuff that you don't want, you throw it into the other Gaylord, and then that's the one that they're charging the $20 disposal fee. So if you're going to try to buy a Gaylord of books, you're going to end up spending, basically, you're going to end up spending, $80 to buy a Gaylord of books. So you're going to sort through, you're going to pick out the ones that you want, and then you're going to take and toss all the rest of them. And then theoretically, they're supposed to take what you don't want, and they're supposed to dispose of that. So that's what the $20 disposal fee is. And if you decide you want to take the whole entire Gaylord home, you come there with a tractor trailer of some sort, or you go and rent a U-Haul and you want to take the Gaylord back to your house, they can forklift it onto your truck, but they're going to charge you $20 for the cardboard and the Gaylord itself. So either way, whether you sort there or you take it home, you're still going to have to pay the additional disposal fee or the Gaylord fee to acquire it. So I went ahead and when I first walked up, I was kind of stunned. I didn't know what to do. I kind of sat around and kind of watched some of the other people come in. They were stunned also as well. A couple guys went ahead and purchased some Gaylord of clothes, and I kind of stood back and watched them. And then finally I just said, you know what, funk it. Let me just go ahead and do it. So I went ahead and bought the Gaylord of books, and they brought it out. They let me pick the spot I wanted to stand, and then they brought the Gaylord of books out to me. And theoretically, they said that the Gaylords have not been sorted through. Okay, check this out. They said the Gaylords have not been sorted through. Now, one of the things is, as a bookseller, you can tell when you got good quality books, you got okay quality books, or you have crummy quality books. And when usually in the crummy quality books means you can tell that they've been sorted through, and people that sell books, they use technology to scan is what they do. And so you can tell when all the cream has been taken off the top. And so when they brought the Gaylord out to me after I paid for it, I cracked it open and looked at it. I was like, oh man, this doesn't look too good at all. So to make a long story short, I went through the whole entire process of looking at every book that was in the Gaylord. And I guess these Gaylords, they roughly hold about 1,500 books or so, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. And so in the end, I went through the entire Gaylord and I scanned the books. I looked at them for profitability. And in the end, there's positive trigger books, which are, your software tells you buy this book. It fits all the parameters. There was a small number of those books that I got green triggers on. There was probably 20 to 25 or so. The rest of the remaining books of the 58, those are all ones that I basically use my professional opinion from selling books over the years of knowing, well, this particular book, it can probably, it's going to sit on the shelf for a while. It's going to, but it'll eventually make money, or I know this particular book is kind of a rare type of book. I'm not going to send it to Amazon. I'll list it on eBay and just let it sit, and I'll put it at a high price. Somebody will come in and make an offer on it. I'll be able to make some money on the book that way. So the remaining books were all the other ones where it's all based upon, professional opinion. And I'll be honest with you guys, the quality of what was in the Gaylord, that Gaylord had been sorted through. All the cream had been picked off of it, and you can tell. And so I went ahead and went through the whole thing. Like I said, pulled out 58 books. There was another guy that was next to me, and actually he's a local seller of books, and he lived right across the way on the island. And he said he'd been out of the mix on, selling books as well because of COVID. And so he heard about this whole thing, and he's here. So he went ahead and bought a Gaylord. And so I was curious to see, because he was standing there looking at mine. He's like, oh man, you can tell this is like some garbage. I said, yeah, dude, it's straight up garbage. And so he said, well, I'll go ahead and buy my Gaylord and let's see what happens. So they brought his Gaylord out. They parked it next to me, and some of the pictures you'll be able to see him actually inside the Gaylord digging through it. And I went over and looked at the Gaylord when they dropped it, and we both looked at each other. We were like, this is like some hot garbage. We just knew. But as we do, we jump in there and we start scanning and trying to make the best of what we got. And as I finished up, I think he was about a quarter of the way through his Gaylord, and he probably had maybe 3 or 4 books. And I'll tell you, if I have ever been to the Goodwill bins on a brand new day, starting out in the morning, and they have a brand new stash of books, in the end, I'll tell you guys, I can pull out 300, 400 books out of there easily, and most of those are positive green triggers. Because and on the days that I've been there, where there were other booksellers that were clawing and grabbing books, I can still easily pull out 100 to 120 books. The majority of those are still going to be positive triggers because a lot of those guys aren't using, software and that type of thing. But in this particular case here, he was using his software, I was using my software. We were definitely trying to trigger to get the green books, and very little of that stuff was coming back. So in the end, my Gaylord and his Gaylord had been sorted through before and previously picked on. And so kind of what my strategy going forward now is, I'm gonna have to change the game. So I'm gonna have to so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna wait until about the middle of June, and I'm gonna go back to Goodwill. I'm gonna buy another Gaylord. And so hopefully by then, all the garbage that they're out there that would be in the Gaylords, that has already been picked through, hopefully those things will be gone and disposed of, and so they'll be finally letting you buy a Gaylord that hasn't been picked through. And if that doesn't work at that point, it's still the same type of showing, I'll wait until the end of the month, and towards the end of June 30th or so, I'll go back and buy another Gaylord. And in the end, if I have the same type of results where it's garbage, everything's been picked through, then I'm going to go ahead and change my acquisition and move upstream and get stuff directly from the source. I got ways to be able to do that. I kind of shied on doing that because I pay a little bit more for those books. It takes a little bit more of my time for me to be able to do that. This has always been a very, very quick, easy, and efficient way to, I get to the store 15, 20 minutes early. I've got access to, thousands and thousands of books. I can scan until my battery runs out on my phone, and I can leave and go home, and I can come back tomorrow and they got a whole brand new fresh stock of books. That particular model has been upset, but as a seller, you got to do what you got to do in order to be able to try to make it happen. So let me go ahead and show you guys some footage. This has been kind of a longer video than anticipated, but I'll go ahead and stop here real quick, and I'll let you guys take a look at the footage, and then I'll come back and give you guys my final wrap up on what I think about the Gaylord process at Goodwill. Hang on a second. All right, guys, check this out. So the Goodwill outlet out here in Oakland on International Boulevard, the game has completely changed. They're converting the outlet over to wholesale only. Now, I'm not sure if they said they may potentially go back to the original business model where they have the bins at some point, but they're out here doing a lot of construction on the outside. Looks like they're sealing up all the entrances, so I'm not sure what the final outcome will be. And here we go. I'm going ahead and walking around the corner from the original entrance over here. You can see they got the wholesale signs. So that's looking back over here towards where the normal outlet was. You can see they have the wholesale signs over here on the ground. There you go, wholesale sales. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and go in and buy one of the Gaylords of books and see how it plays out. All right, so this is what they're doing. They're selling these Gaylords here. They've converted, the bins, you can see them back there stacked up, into the wholesale. You can purchase the Gaylords here. Here's the prices. We got clothing for $80 a Gaylord, housewares is $40, shoes is $40, purses and hats $150, and media is going to be $80. These guys here just bought a Gaylord full of for clothing. I think it's $140. It's all got blankets in it, so they'll go ahead and swap it out and get you a different one. All right, there you go. I just went ahead and bought a Gaylord of books, and I had to pay the $20 disposal fee, so they're going to go ahead and bring it out here in a second for me. So I'll go ahead and get started going through it, and we'll see what happens. All right, guys, I'm a process-oriented guy, so I finally got myself set up here. I got the Gaylord. I'm ready to start going through it. I've got my scanners. Actually, made a mistake and didn't charge. Just haven't used them in such a long time. So I have my backup one. You gotta always have a backup. I have a step stool, and then I have a couple carts here. This cart will be for stuff that doesn't have an ISBN, that's not scannable easily. I have to look up manually. Anything that's gonna be gold, I'm gonna go ahead and drop it over here. So I'll check back with you guys in a second. All right, checking it back in with you guys here. So I've already gone through this pile of books. Man, I jacked up. I should have, rookie mistake, I should have gone ahead and made sure that my scanners were paired and working before I left. I haven't used them in such a long time, 5 or 6 months, maybe longer than that. that I was like, damn, it's not working. But anyway, going through, just doing these things manually. These are all the books I have left to go. You can see over here on the side, there's some people that have been working on their Gaylords. We got a couple more people over here on the side. So I estimate it's probably gonna take me about another hour and a half to get through all these books. Check back with you guys in a second. All right, checking back in with you guys. I had to stop here. I got Sean T staring back up at me. So I'm about halfway through the Gaylord right now. And this is the other side over here, the ones I've discarded out of here. And I've got a few books over here. So I'm not sure the ratio of success here. I think there's a lot of duds, but I'll keep going. All right, guys, there we go. The Gaylord is empty. And these are all the books that I've transferred or gone through. To be honest with you guys, this may not have been the best deal in the world. There were a lot of duds in here, and I'll show you guys. I ended up pulling roughly 58 books altogether in total. So these are the ones that were all positive green triggers. These are all the ones I've used. I've actually pulled based upon my knowledge of selling books. Some of these will actually go on eBay. So hang on a second. I'm gonna go ahead and shut this down here and head to the car. I'll give you guys my final comments on the process here once I get back to the studio. All right, guys, welcome back. So like I said, that was my experience dealing with the Gaylords there. And I'll tell you, the way the math works, if you look at it this way, typically they're passing it off as wholesale, but $1.49 a pound in my mind is what wholesale was. In the end, I was about paying retail. So you figure if I found 58 books and I paid $80 for the right to get those books, it's about $1.31, $1.35, let's say $1.40 per book. And so if I'm normally able to go to Goodwill and buy, the books for 25 cents each, so I'm basically paying 6 times the price of a book that I normally would pay. And like I said, majority of what I did pick were not green positive triggers. They were just ones that I used my professional opinion, to determine, well, this particular book, I know I can sell it for more. I'm gonna have to sit on it and list it on eBay, and so if you as you can see, it's not necessarily a good deal. And if in order for the math to work, if I'm going to pay $80 for a Gaylord, I have to at least find 320 books, and which is not difficult to do if the bin has not been picked through and has not been sorted through previously. So like I said, I'm gonna go ahead and wait this one out. I'm gonna come back on the 15th and buy another Gaylord, check it out, and then I'm gonna turn around and come back and buy one on the 30th. If the problem hasn't rectified itself, then I'll check back probably later on during the year. But I'm gonna go ahead and move upstream and get my books directly from the source. I got a couple other spots and I'm gonna go ahead and go. So, excuse me. In the end, guys, that was what happened at the Goodwill bins now. I guess Goodwill Gaylords, I guess you got to change the name. And talking to the people that are there, they're actually, they said that at some point maybe they might bring back the bin model, but in talking to some other people that were there, they said they're going to be converting that location into an e-commerce facility, which makes sense because if you're going to take and board up the entire building, you got to have a certain amount of entrance and exits, to be able to let people in, fire marshal wise, but if it's going to be set up to be, an e-commerce facility with minimal employees working there, you don't necessarily need all those exits and stuff. So we'll see how this all plays out. Like I said, if it doesn't work over the next couple times, I'll go ahead and move upstream and keep it moving. That's what we do as resellers. When things get shut down, we turn around, we pivot, and we try to find another way to make it happen. That's what we do, guys. All right. So I'll go ahead and shut this one down. I appreciate you guys listening. This is typically an unusually long video, but there's a lot of information here I wanted to tell you guys. And there's a good chance that this particular model may play out and roll to other locations nationwide. And if your Goodwill location has closed down your bins or your clearance center, and it's switched over to a wholesale model such as this where you have to buy a Gaylord, let me know, guys. I'd be interested to hear about that. And I know out here in the Bay Area, there were 8 to 10 or so Goodwill locations that they actually shut down, and they laid off a bunch of employees. So these guys are definitely hurting. They're scrambling to try to find a way to be able to, keep it going because of COVID and keep the money coming in the door. But this method here of, providing, people goods that have already been sorted through definitely won't work. But I get it. Everybody's got to try to make a dollar. All right, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and sign out. If you haven't had a chance to, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I definitely appreciate it. Like this video. And most importantly, guys, guess what? I'll see you on the other side. All right, guys. Take care. Be safe. Hey guys, thanks for sticking with me all the way to the end of this video. Visit me directly at andrereese.biz. 4 things to do: like, follow, subscribe, hit that bell. Stay safe, guys. Lift the glass to freedom. Stay woke and don't get TikTok. Take care. I will see you guys in the next video.